Good afternoon and welcome to Subcommittee 5, Public Safety. And I believe we have a quorum, so I'm going to ask that the Secretary go ahead and take the roll so that we can start the hearing.
Campos. Here. Holden. Lackey. Here. Rodriguez. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to welcome everyone to Assembly Budget Subcommittee hearing on public safety. I am the newly appointed chairperson, and my name is Nora Campos. Before we begin the hearing, I would like to give you a little bit about who I am and my background and why I am very excited to be chairing this subcommittee. People ask me, why are you so excited about chairing a committee that has to do with public safety and the budget when there are so many other things that you could be excited about? I'll tell you why. This is an issue that affects every community across the state of California. And coming from local government, serving on the city council in the city of San Jose for 10 years, public safety was one of the number one things. One time we were the safest big city in the U.S., and then another time before I left, we no longer carried that title. So when I first started, I saw some amazing work that was done through some of the tools that we were able to provide on the local level for our law enforcement to be able to make our communities safe. So to be able to have a dialogue with all of you that also feel that this is an important issue, and being able to craft and figure out where we as a state are spending our public dollars to do the best for our communities and also our individuals that actually make sure that our communities are safe, and looking at where our current correctional facilities are at for a wide variety of issues is important, I think, as we move forward in making sure that California continues to be a safe place. Having said that, I also am going to be focusing on other issues that we haven't had the time or have not been highlighted through this committee. There are issues that we address, but I want to spend a little bit more time focusing on these issues, and I'm hoping that you all will be partners with me as we move forward on these areas. And I'm just going to name a few. Human trafficking, domestic violence, gang intervention and suppression, aging police departments, as well as our prisons, creating an infrastructure there, juvenile incarceration, ensuring offenders have the tools and resources for to be safely and effective reentry society after serving jail and prison terms. Those are just to name a few of the areas that I hope we focus on and spend a little more attention as we go through this budget process. With that, I look forward to working with my colleagues. I want to welcome Assemblymember Holden. We haven't had the opportunity to serve on this committee, and I know that you have interest in this topic as well, so welcome. I've enjoyed working with my other two colleagues, Assemblymember Rodriguez and Assemblymember Lackey, so welcome. I look forward to building a stronger partnership, want to understand what are the issues that are important to all of you, so please take the time, and I will take the time to lend my ear to what's important to you as well so that we can strike a balance for California. I know this is an issue that's important to all of us, so thank you. So at this time, I'd like to call the first panel forward, and that is an overview of population overview with CDRC. And I will let you designate who would be the first person to speak on this issue, and look forward to the discussion.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. Jason Lopez, Deputy Director for the department. So Overall, CDCR's proposed 2016-17 budget is about $500 million more than our actual expenditures from prior year. The department is regularly asked and has been asked for many years to explain the trend of our funding growing while our population continues to decline. We did touch on this in our update, also known as our Blueprint 2.0 that came out in January shortly after the governor's budget, but I just wanted to reiterate the message that was delivered in that report. So when you look at this, there are four main areas that I think you need to focus. First, our employee compensation and retirement contributions is an aspect of our budget that we don't have a ton of control over. These are tied to salary increases that all of our 60,000 plus employees receive, and employer contributions to retirement likewise are somewhat out of our control. And so about $835 million of the growth that you see since 2012 is tied to those two components. Secondly, the latest budget includes about $250 million in funding tied to efforts to increase capacity to comply with the three-judge court's mandate. Third, we have our California healthcare facility in Stockton that has opened up since the release of the blueprint in 2012. We had just some startup costs that were included in that 2012 plan, but almost $300 million more funding has been devoted to CHCF since that date. And then lastly, we have lease revenue debt service that has increased by about $170 million, and that's tied primarily to, again, the CHCF facility in Stockton, our infill projects at Mule Creek and at RJD, and our HICFIT projects, our healthcare facility improvement projects throughout the state. I do think it's noteworthy also, though, that the total budget for the department has, over the course of that same period of time, as a percentage of the overall state budget, decreased from about 9.7% of the total state budget back in 2012 to about 8.4% in the proposed 16-17 budget. I don't think anyone's going to spend any time dancing. I think a lot of people would consider the 8.4 relatively high, but we're an awfully big department, and I think it's heading in the right direction. So a little bit on our population. In collaboration with UC Irvine, CDCR's Office of Research developed projections for our offender population. This includes those housed at our adult institutions and our alternative housing projects. It includes the Division of Juvenile Justice wards, and it also includes the post-incarceration parolees that we supervise. These projections include the impact of Prop 47 as well as several court-ordered population reduction initiatives. Further, these projections include the impact of changes to segregated housing regulations and the Ashker settlement, which largely impacts our security housing or SHU housing and our level 4 housing. With the adult population specifically, the ADP is now projected to decrease by 0.2% in current year versus Budget Act to 127,681 as of June of 2016, and is projected to then increase by 0.7% to 128,834 in budget year. After that, following 4 consecutive years of projected growth, the institution population is projected to reach 131,092 by June of 2020. So we are expecting to see some growth in the future. The parole population, after 7 years straight of decline, we did see an increase from 1314 to 1415. We do expect, with Prop 47 in our rearview mirror, to see that population settle now and go back in the direction of declining. The projected parolee population as of June of 2020 is 43,089. Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me, 41,326 as of June of 2020. Our juvenile population is expected to continue to rise slightly. It was at 690 wards as of June of 2015, and we're expecting it to be 713 as of June of 2016. We do expect it to stabilize at that point and grow slightly for the period ending June of 2017 at about 714 wards. I'm joined by Denise Allen, who is our chief of our Office of Research at CDCR, and with your permission, she's going to go ahead and expand a little more on our methodology for coming up with our projections.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today. I know that there are several new committee members, and so I'd like to talk a little bit about how we're doing population projections and our plan for future projections. So really, with the implementation of realignment in 2011 and the implementation of a new operational system for tracking offenders, so both inmates and parolees, CDCR needed to refine how we were doing projections. We needed to account for what was happening to the offender population post realignment, and we also had a new data system with more robust offender level data. So commencing about 2.5 years ago, we refined our population projections to include the new data available in the Strategic Offender Management System, SOMS, as well as incorporating time series forecasting. So taking what data was available post-realignment and conducting time series forecasts, which is a statistical method used to produce forecast for the 2 to 5 year time horizon. Having a limited amount of data post-realignment, we were very confident in our projections from the 2 to 3 year time horizon and recognized the importance of developing kind of a long-term population forecasting solution. And so we engaged with UC Irvine, University of California, Irvine, to develop the time series forecasts. And those are both for institution, parole, and as Jason mentioned, for our juvenile population. Time series is a very strong statistical tool. Our projections are tracking at about 0.1%. So they're some of the best forecasts in the country for any Department of Corrections. And I think that speaks to our working with external experts. However, time series is not very flexible. So it's very good when you have trend data, and it's very good if you have a stable population. And so, of course, we haven't had that in the last few years. So we are seeking to build a simulation model. And what that will allow is for us to have flexibility to run what-if scenarios. So if there's proposed legislation, initiatives, laws that are coming to California, we will be able to forecast those without having to rely on an immense amount of trend data. So it'll allow some flexibility for us to run what-if scenarios, not being anchored so much to trend data, and will allow us to forecast different housing units, impacts on different housing levels, and so that work is currently underway, and we are seeking external partners. We've been in conversations with MIT and Harvard. They've done this kind of work with other Department of Corrections, and so we're looking to national experts to guide what we're doing at CDCR. But our interim solution, the time series forecasts, have proven to be very accurate, and so we'll be running those for the next several fiscal years until we can fully develop, test, and implement our simulation model. So if the committee has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
We're going to ask the Department of Finance if they have anything to add, and then we'll go to the LAO and see if they have anything to add.
Nothing to add at this time.
Aaron Edwards with the Legislative Analyst's Office. We think the administration's population estimates are generally reasonable, but we do have one concern, and that relates to the activation of a new prison infill project at R.J. Donovan Prison down in San Diego. That's a new facility that's going to have a design capacity of about 800 beds. It was originally intended to be completed in February of 2016. And due to some construction delays, the department has indicated it won't be open until May of 2016. The current year budget includes about $15 million for the activation of that facility to staff it. However, now that there's a 3-month delay, the department will need the correctional officers to staff that facility for 3 fewer months due to the delayed activation. However, the administration's population adjustments do not include any savings at this point associated with the reduced cost to staff that facility. So we are recommending that the legislature direct the department to provide an estimate of what those savings will be, so that those changes can be made in the May revise to the budget.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee at this time? Mr. Lass.
Yeah, just a real quick question we talked about the increase in the funding. To imagine you outlined the 4 reasons for that, but I wonder, since we have a decreased population, are we going to be able to focus more on the rehab services component since we have a lower ratio of inmates?
Absolutely. Rehabilitative programming has become maybe the number one priority for the department, and it is in large part because we have a population that's more manageable. So we have seen an expansion recently in the investment in the rehabilitative side of the house, and our programs are absolutely being ramped up, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Assembly Member Rodriguez.
Just real quick, a question regarding the cost of an inmate. I'm always asked the question to folks ask me, Assemblymember, why is it cost so much to house an inmate in California versus the other states? Can you kind of give me the reasons why there's so much of a difference in cost on that?
Clint Kellum, Department of Finance. I think many people and many departments are asked a similar type of question, and we've looked at it over the years. I think it's difficult to provide an apples-to-apples comparison, given that some states budget their costs differently. Some have healthcare budgets in their healthcare programs, and it's not all self-contained within the prison budget. I think there's also pay differences between states given the cost of living. That can be different. Their infrastructure are different. Some states have much smaller prisons and many more of them spread out, where we have 35 and then we have many more inmates in them. So I don't know if there's a pinpoint answer on why they're different, other than say that there's diversity in the pay, how they're budgeted, kind of the overall infrastructure that probably lead to some of those differences.
If I could just add, I think when you think about staffing prisons, it's really a people business. I mean, your costs, the majority of your costs are in staffing, and it's very staffing intensive. And I think we haven't looked in for several years now, but when we did look at this few years back, the pay rates for correctional officers in particular were in excess of what other states and the federal government were paying. And so that pay differential probably accounts for most of the difference when you look into other states. And then I would note also that our healthcare costs are significantly higher than most other states, and a lot of that is due to the ongoing litigation and the state being in receivership for medical care in our prison system, and a lot of court-ordered increases in expenditures.
I just want to follow up on that. Is it cost more to house in-house or out of state?
So if you look at the average cost for a state prison, it's roughly about $70,000 on average per inmate. Our contract bed cost is about $29,000 per inmate at this point. So if you're comparing the average cost of an inmate in a state prison, it's certainly higher. I think it's important, though, to distinguish that when we're making changes on the margin to the inmate population, if we're just talking about a few hundred inmate shift up or down, that the savings are a lot less because we don't make major staffing changes to a prison when we change the population slightly. And so when we're making those marginal changes, the costs are actually a lot lower. It's about $11,000 per inmate that we add to a state prison.
Okay. At this time, is there any public comment on this particular item? We'd ask you to come forward, and the sergeant has a microphone to my left. State your name and your agency, and you have a minute to speak on this item.
Thank you. Lizzie Beacon with Californians United for a Responsible Budget. I think it's really concerning what we've been hearing about how with this update to the blueprint, we've seen that the CDCR has failed to accomplish nearly everything that it set out to accomplish with the original blueprint. The only things that they have accomplished are the increased capacity and standardized staffing, whereas the population reduction, the cost reduction, closing Norco, getting people back from out of state, that's all, none of that was accomplished. And so I think that that is of great concern, and I think before we before we look into meeting more of these requests, we need to look into how can we seriously, sustainably, and significantly reduce the prison population so that we can start bringing people back from out of state. And the fact that they are predicting further population increases, I think, is also very concerning because it's basically acknowledging that their programs don't reduce recidivism, that nothing that they're doing is working.
And if you can wrap it up, please.
Sure.
Thank
you.
Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Katie Tortoka, and I'm here with CURB and Prisoner Hunger Strike Solidarity Coalition, and I am here to speak briefly about something that was mentioned about population change from the SHU to general population, and something I know is on the budget is a proposed $5.8 million more dollars for gang investigators, and I have some letters here that some of us from different organizations have written to all of you. And should I give them to you? Okay. And we just ask you to reject that funding and also to have a full hearing on that agenda item, which I know the Senate is hearing tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marie Levin, and I am with Prisoner Hunger Strike Solidarity Coalition, and I'm also a family member. And I'm standing here to ask for a full hearing on the SHU, Security Housing Unit. I believe that due to the Asker v. Brown settlement, that there's so many changes that are happening within the prison with the prisoners that there would not need to be so much money given to investigation. They just need to start rehabilitating them. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we are going to move to issue 2, alternative custody programs, and I will actually ask CDCR to go ahead and move forward on this issue.
Okay. The alternative custody programs issue. So CDCR administers both what we refer to as an alternative custody program and an enhanced alternative custody program, commonly referred to as the Custody to Community Transitional Reentry Program, or CCTRP. We have 2 proposals in the budget, one for each of these programs. First, CDCR requests $390,000 in budget year and ongoing for the expansion of our enhanced alternative custody programs in Santa Fe and San Diego. The expansion would involve 72 additional beds, 36 beds at each of those 2 facilities, bringing the capacity to 118 at each. Second, we request 20 positions and $3.3 million in current year, growing to 40 positions and $6 million in budget year and ongoing to provide field and administrative support for a 12-month alternative custody program for both our male and female inmate population. This is designed to comply with the Sassman versus Brown court order. Just a little bit of history on the alternative custody program. In 2010, SB 1266 provided for the implementation of a female ACP program whereby qualifying participants, which were defined as female inmates, pregnant inmates, or inmates who immediately prior to incarceration were primary caregivers of dependent children, were allowed the opportunity to participate in the voluntary ACP program in lieu of serving their time in the state prison. Subsequently, in June of 2012, SB 1021 modified penal code to state female inmates sentenced to state prison for a determinate term of imprisonment pursuant to Section 1170, and only those persons shall be eligible to participate in the alternative custody program authorized by this section. Moving ahead, in September of 2015, the court mandated that we expand the alternative custody program to include male inmates. This proposal outlines the department's plan to comply with this order. I'm joined by Jay Verbal, who is our Associate Director within the Division of Adult Institutions, and he's going to provide just a little bit more information on the EACP and the ACP programs.
So the EACP program consists of housing in San Diego, Los Angeles, and currently Bakersfield, with a new unit also opening up in Stockton, California. Each one of those house 82 beds in San Diego and in Los Angeles, and 75 beds currently in our Bakersfield facility, with 50 beds coming online in the Stockton area. I was pleased to hear in your opening comments, because these units do what you had described. They offer family reunification, trauma-informed treatment, substance abuse treatment, cognitive behavior, domestic violence services, life skill development, family-focused services, educational services, GED preparation, and employment placement. We've had great success with these programs that are out there offering these skills to the female offenders, and with the opening of the ACP, now the male offenders will begin entrance into a program. With that being said, we also offer Community Prisoner Mother Program, which is in Pomona, California, allowing women with their children up to the age of 5 years old to live with their mother out in the community. And so depending on what their criteria is to receive that program.
Thank you. We're going to ask the same question of the Department of Finance, if they have anything to add, and then we'll go to same thing to LAO.
Phelan Parker, Department of Finance. Just a quick note, in the agenda it states that both the EACP and the ACP are being proposed to reduce to 1 year. It in fact is only the ACP that is being proposed a reduction to 1 year.
Thank you.
So we do have some comments on this proposal, and it relates to this issue of the reduction in the length of the program from 2 years to 1. At this point, we don't think the administration has really provided a compelling rationale for why they're proposing to reduce the length of the program for the from 2 years to 1. In terms of why it would operate more effectively as a 1 year program rather than a 2 year program. They also haven't really provided any assessment of how this would impact the female offenders that are currently eligible for the program as a 2 year program. There could be some adverse impact given the shortening of the program to the female offenders who currently participate, and we haven't received any data from the department in terms of the number of female offenders that might be impacted, and so for that reason, pending that additional analysis to assess the impact on the female population, we are recommending that the legislature withhold action to receive that additional information to better assess what the impact will be for those female inmates.
Would anyone like to take answer that question? Why are we asking for 1 year versus the 2 year? And then what is the difference between the male population and the female population?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Verbal again. So the new program for ACP is a large-scale program that will roll out throughout the entire state. And with that being said, we want to be able to effectively roll that program out while supervising in the community and offering this program to a male population who we've yet to have out there under an alternative custody program. So it'll allow the state to do that effectively while still maintaining supervision and processing the times that are found in SB 219, which was originally developed for females only. And so it allows the department, like I said, the opportunity to do that. And later, after gathering data and seeing how human behavior plays out, we will be able to then go back and look at that and make adjustments to the model if need be, which we've continued to do throughout the years for ACP for women. With that also being said, the impact on women, currently right now, only approximately 20% or so women are in the second year of ACP that go out to ACP. ACP is a very small population for women because it concentrates only on non-serious, non-violent offenders coming into the state prison system. Our larger population really is the CCTRP, which has a serious or violent overtone to it, where they go out in a program facility as they go through while under a parole supervision model. So with that being said, it would be a very small impact on second-year women. We do have that data where it shows how many months are left to serve, but because an individual case has to be identified as it's processed through the actions with their individual treatment plan and what their totality of circumstances are for their incarceration, you really have to look at an individual case on its own merit. And so it's hard to take a broad view of the entire numbers to say how it's going to affect the male population. We have no data yet on this program for male population, so like I said, it allows us to roll this out and effectively supervise in the community.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to the members of the committee if they have any questions at this time. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Please come to the front. And you have a minute to speak on this item. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you. Lizzie Buchan, Californians United for a Responsible Budget. Agree that we don't think there's sufficient rationale to reduce the time for ACP from 2 years to 1 year. And also just a comment about the enhanced ACP program. This is, the program has often people in the women's prisons who have been applying to go to the ACP end up going to the EACP, which is very different. They often get shipped to a part of the state that is nowhere near where they're from, and which obviously misses much of the point of the ACP program. And so that's one of the concerns we have with the EACP. With the ACP, they are on electronic monitoring. They have a lot of restrictions in their movement, and it seems like if someone is able to be back out in the community, out of prison, then why aren't they just in the ACP program, ACP, where they can be with their family in their home community instead of in another CDCR facility? Thank you.
Would you mind answering her question? Her concern. In this public setting, that would be helpful for me to be able to ask for approval to move forward on this.
I would love to. If I could actually do two things, and if I could take just about 15 seconds to read a note that I brought in.
Okay,
and we get
I'd appreciate that.
So this came to one of our program directors there, and it says, ever since coming to your program on June 2nd, 2015, here at CCTRP Santa Fe Springs, which is in Los Angeles, I've been able to regain the trust of the courts and have them reverse the reunification custody of my 14-year-old son, and I'll leave the name out. On January 22nd, 2016, I was presented at the Family and Children's Court Judge Craig Arthur, who has been so pleased with my program here at LA County, or LA CAUTA, CCTRP Santa Fe Springs, and the ability to transition back into society. Due to my participation here at the La CAUTA CCTRP and individualized groups settings that I have participated and graduated from, I have been able to show completion of drug education, anger management, healthy relationships, thinking for change, seeking safety, grief and loss, as well as parenting. I am currently working at American Apparel for 40 hours a week, and I am saving money in my savings for my son and I to have a better future. The reason this letter is to show my deep appreciation for this great establishment. I truly am grateful for the opportunity for change and to grow. I also have the opportunity to show Judge Craig Arthur my accomplishments, who was so pleased with the program and the team here that he recommends there should be more places like this. He was so proud of me and my accomplishments in this program along with my transformation. Thank you again for this opportunity to live again. That's just one example, and those kind of choke me up some days because I get to go out and meet the women who come into the programs. But the population for women is small. We have about 5,300 or so that are out there, and we couldn't have one in every area and make it cost effective. So having these for the women that are out in San Diego, Los Angeles, Stockton, and Bakersfield, it allows them to go back and transition into a community. But these community programs are voluntary, so they're not placed there. You volunteer by filling out an application, you go in front of a committee, and you work towards this. A non-serious, non-violent offender for ACP has the ability to go out and apply to live at home or a transitional area of their choosing once approved, but not for a CCTRP, which might be a serious and violent. So, but we've had wonderful results. The women gain employment, they gain family reunification, trust back with their family, and community placement. And I think that really it's a program that speaks for itself.
Thank you for that additional information.
Thank you.
So I am going to now ask if there is a motion to move this item forward from the committee.